I never thought I would be the guy telling a story like this. For 8 years, my marriage to Amanda seemed picture perfect. I worked hard as a software engineer to give us the life we dreamed of, and I loved spoiling her. Then one day I came home early to find her sporting a fresh tattoo on her neck that read, "Independent Girl." That should have been my first clue that something was seriously wrong in our relationship. As her new empowering friends took up more of her time, I started noticing patterns that left me with a pit in my stomach. If you are watching this now, let me know where you are tuning in from, and hit that subscribe button to find out how I turned the tables when my wife decided she wanted independence. Life was good before everything fell apart. I had spent years building my career as a software engineer at one of the top tech companies in Seattle. The hours were long, but the pay was excellent, and I took pride in being able to provide a comfortable lifestyle for myself and eventually for Amanda. We met at a small coffee shop 10 years ago. I was coding on my laptop when I accidentally knocked over her latte as she walked past. After profusely apologizing and buying her a new drink, we ended up talking for hours. She was beautiful with long auburn hair and a laugh that made everyone around her smile. Amanda worked as a yoga instructor at a local studio, passionate about helping people connect with their bodies and find inner peace. Our romance was a whirlwind. We moved in together after 6 months and were married within 2 years. The wedding was small, but perfect, surrounded by our closest friends and family at a scenic overlook near the coast. I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive, as we exchanged vows with the sunset painting the sky behind us. When it came to our finances, we decided to merge everything. We created a joint account where my significantly larger salary and her modest yoga instructor income would go. I never minded that I contributed more financially. Amanda brought so much joy and balance to my life, and I was happy to handle most of our expenses. I purchased our beautiful 4-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood with a spacious backyard where we talked about our future children playing someday. Amanda continued her work as a part-time yoga instructor after we got married. She genuinely loved teaching and connecting with her students. 3 days a week, she would come home energized from her classes, excitedly telling me stories about her day. The other days, she would take care of our home and pursue various hobbies like gardening and cooking. We fell into a comfortable routine that seemed perfect. We had our future mapped out together. We planned to start trying for children after our 10th anniversary. We dreamed about traveling to Europe, taking cooking classes in Italy, and hiking in Switzerland. Amanda even talked about eventually opening her own yoga studio, and I was fully supportive of that dream, setting aside money to help make it happen when she was ready. Despite our seemingly perfect life, Amanda occasionally struggled with insecurities that stemmed from her childhood. Her parents had divorced when she was young, and her father had been largely absent afterward. Her mother had worked multiple jobs to support them, leaving Amanda often feeling alone. She sometimes worried about not being good enough, or that people would eventually leave her. I always reassured her that I was different, that our love was rock solid, and that I would always be there for her. The first sign of trouble came after Amanda attended a weekend yoga retreat about 8 months ago. She returned home bubbling with excitement about a new friend she had met named Sophia. According to Amanda, Sophia was an entrepreneur who ran several successful online businesses and lived a glamorous, independent lifestyle. At first, I was happy that Amanda had found a new friend who seemed to inspire her. But as the weeks passed, I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She started dressing differently, wearing more makeup, and spending more time on her phone. She began using phrases like "living my truth" and "stepping into my power" that seemed rehearsed rather than authentic coming from her. Amanda also became increasingly secretive with her phone. She would turn it away when I entered the room or quickly switch apps. Once, I caught a glimpse of a text conversation that stopped abruptly when she noticed me looking. When I casually asked who she was texting so much, she became defensive and accused me of not respecting her privacy. Despite these warning signs, I dismissed my growing concerns. We had built 8 years of trust and commitment. We had weathered tough times before, like when I lost my job during a company downsizing or when her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Our bond had always been unbreakable. I convinced myself that this was just a phase, that Amanda was exploring new interests and would soon return to being the woman I had fallen in love with. I had no idea how wrong I was, or how quickly our perfect life was about to unravel. The day everything changed started innocently enough. I was supposed to be on a 3-day business trip to San Francisco, but my final meeting was canceled, allowing me to catch an earlier flight home. I decided not to tell Amanda, planning to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant and a quiet evening together. When I pulled into our driveway around 6 in the evening, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked on the street in front of our house. Thinking it might be one of her yoga students for a private session, I grabbed the food and headed inside. The sound of laughter greeted me as I opened the front door. I followed it to our kitchen, where I found Amanda sitting with a woman I assumed was Sophia and a man I had never seen before. They had wine glasses in front of them and were huddled around Amanda, looking at something on her neck. When they noticed me standing there, the room fell silent. That was when I saw it clearly for the first time. On the right side of her neck, just below her ear, was a fresh tattoo in flowing script that read "Independent Girl." The skin around it was still red and slightly swollen. I stood frozen, the Thai food growing cold in my hands. Amanda looked surprised to see me, but not necessarily happy. "Homer, you are home early," she said, her voice lacking the warmth I was accustomed to. She introduced her friends as Sophia and Jackson before awkwardly offering me a glass of wine. After her friends left, I asked her about the tattoo. "When did you get this? And why did you not tell me you were planning something so permanent?" I tried to keep my voice calm, though inside I was a hurricane of confusion and hurt. Amanda crossed her arms defensively. "I do not need your permission for what I do with my body, Homer. This is about me finding myself, about not living in your shadow anymore." Her words hit me like a physical blow. Shadow. Had she felt overshadowed by me all these years? I had always thought we were partners, equals, despite our different contributions to our life together. That first argument lasted for hours. Amanda accused me of being controlling and not supporting her growth. I tried to explain that my concerns had nothing to do with controlling her, but with the sudden changes in her behavior and the fact that major life decisions like permanent tattoos had always been things we discussed together. Over the next few weeks, Amanda introduced me to more members of what she called her empowerment circle. Besides Sophia and Jackson, there was Tara, a self-proclaimed life coach, and Drew, who ran what they called financial freedom workshops. They all seemed to share a vocabulary of buzzwords about independence, authenticity, and breaking free from societal expectations. Something about this group did not sit right with me, but whenever I tried to express my concerns, Amanda dismissed me as being threatened by strong women or afraid of change. Around this time, I began noticing unusual expenses on our joint account. Charges from high-end restaurants I had never been to. A weekend spa retreat that cost over $3,000. Designer clothing purchases. When I brought these up with Amanda, she became defensive again. "I work too, Homer. That money is not just yours," she snapped, though her part-time yoga income was a fraction of our household budget. Then came a discovery that shattered what remaining trust I had. While paying bills one evening, I noticed several lunch charges at an expensive downtown restaurant on days Amanda had told me she was teaching private yoga sessions. Something made me look up the restaurant online, and I found several photos on their Instagram page. In one of them, partially visible in the background, were Amanda and Jackson sitting close together at a corner table, her hand on his arm. When I confronted her with this evidence, Amanda's reaction was not guilt, but indignation. "Are you spying on me now? This is exactly why I need independence. You treat me like a possession, not a partner." "Partner," I replied, my voice breaking. "Partners are honest with each other. Partners do not hide lunch dates with other men. Partners discuss major expenses before spending thousands from a joint account." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Jackson and I are just friends. He understands me in ways you never have. He supports my journey without trying to clip my wings." Despite my growing anger and hurt, I tried one last attempt to understand what was happening to our marriage. I suggested couples counseling, asking if there was something I had done or failed to do that had made her unhappy. Her response chilled me to the core. "I just feel trapped, Homer. I have been with you since I was 22. I never got to experience life on my own terms. I have always been Mrs. Homer Sullivan, living in your house, spending your money. How can I know who I really am when my entire adult identity has been tied to you?" Those words played on repeat in my mind as I drove aimlessly around the city that night, trying to make sense of how the woman who had once loved building a life with me now viewed that same life as a prison. When I finally parked at a scenic overlook, I broke down sobbing alone in my car for the first time since my father died years ago. The next day, I called my oldest friend Daniel and told him everything. After listening patiently, he asked me a simple question that changed my perspective. If Amanda wants independence so badly, why is she still living in your house and spending your money? Real independence comes with responsibility, not just freedom. That question was the spark that would eventually light the fire of my response. After my conversation with Daniel, I spent several nights in our guest room considering my options. Amanda barely seemed to notice coming home late from her various workshops and events with her new friends. One evening, I overheard her on the phone with Sophia, laughing about how clueless I was. That was the moment something hardened within me. The next day, I consulted with a lawyer about protecting my assets. The attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia, listened to my story with a sympathetic but practical ear. Your wife wants independence. Then perhaps you should help her achieve it on all levels, she suggested. Patricia advised me on how to legally separate our finances while the marriage was still intact. She also explained what documentation I should gather to protect myself in case things progressed to divorce. I spent the next week quietly collecting bank statements, text messages, and photographs, creating a paper trail of Amanda's changed behavior and questionable spending. Once I had my legal ducks in a row, I set up a meeting with Amanda. I asked her to meet me for dinner at the restaurant where we had celebrated our first anniversary. I figured a public setting would keep the conversation civil. Amanda arrived 30 minutes late, looking annoyed that I had interrupted her plans. After we ordered, I calmly asked her what she wanted for our future. Her answer confirmed everything I had suspected. I need space to find myself. Homer, she said, sipping the expensive wine I had ordered. Maybe we should live separately for a while. But obviously I would keep the house since I do not have your income. And I would need sufficient monthly support while I build my personal brand and online presence. Sophia thinks I could be a great influencer with the right backing. I nodded slowly, taking a sip of water while processing her words. She wanted the freedom of independence without any of the responsibility. She wanted to find herself using my financial support as a safety net. So you want independence, but you also want me to subsidize it, I clarified. She frowned. Do not be petty, Homer. After 8 years together, you owe me that much. Something snapped inside me at that moment, though. I maintained my composure. You are right about one thing, Amanda. You do need independence. Real independence. The next morning, while Amanda was at a networking brunch with her empowerment circle, I went to the bank and opened a new personal account. I transferred my most recent paycheck there and set up my direct deposit to go to this new account going forward. I left enough in the joint account to cover the next month of household expenses, but nothing more. Then I went home and packed up Amanda's belongings. I did not damage anything or throw her stuff out, as tempting as that might have been. I simply boxed everything neatly and placed it in the garage. I changed the locks on the doors and left a note taped to the garage door that read, "You wanted independence. Now you have it. Your things are in the garage. The joint account has enough to get you started on your independent journey. Good luck finding yourself." I took only some clothes and essential items for myself, then drove to my brother Mark's house across town. I had already explained the situation to him, and he had readily offered me his guest room for as long as I needed it. The tsunami hit my phone within an hour. Amanda called 17 times in succession. When I did not answer, the text messages began evolving from confusion to disbelief to rage. Is this some kind of joke? Let me in the house right now. You cannot just throw me out. This is illegal. You are going to regret this. I am calling my lawyer. I responded with just one text. I am giving you exactly what you asked for: independence. Real independence means supporting yourself, making your own way, not being dependent on someone else's house and money while claiming to be free. I will be in touch through my attorney. Then I blocked her number, knowing I needed emotional distance to stay strong. The next wave came through social media. Amanda, Sophia, and their entire circle began posting thinly veiled references to me as a controlling, abusive husband who could not handle a strong, independent woman. They painted me as a villain who had cruelly abandoned his wife because she dared to express herself with a tattoo. This digital character assassination was harder to bear than I expected. Friends and acquaintances began reaching out, asking if the posts were true. Some people I had known for years seemed ready to believe the worst of me based solely on Amanda's side of the story. That was when I made my only public statement on the matter. I posted a simple, factual account on my social media. For those who have heard rumors, yes, Amanda and I are separated. No, it was not because of a tattoo. I fully support every person's right to bodily autonomy. The reasons are more complex and personal. I appreciate respect for our privacy during this difficult time. Then I shared with just our closest mutual friends the evidence I had gathered, screenshots of the excessive spending photos of Amanda with Jackson and text messages where she had discussed using me for financial support while finding herself. I did not do this publicly to shame her, but privately to defend myself against false accusations. The financial reality hit Amanda hard and fast. Within 2 weeks, she discovered that independence meant paying for her own phone bill, car insurance, credit card debt, and daily expenses. According to my brother, who heard from a mutual friend, Amanda had moved in with Sophia temporarily, but was finding that arrangement strained, as Sophia's enthusiasm for supporting Amanda's journey did not extend to supporting her financially. The most revealing development came when Jackson, her supposed supportive friend, who understood her in ways I never could, suddenly became scarce when she needed money. The man who had been happy to enjoy expensive lunches on my dime was nowhere to be found when the bill came due in a larger sense. 3 weeks into our separation, I received a message from a number I did not recognize. It was Amanda using a friend's phone. "Can we please talk? I made a terrible mistake." I did not respond. 2 days later, she showed up at Mark's house, her eyes red from crying, the independent girl tattoo partially covered with makeup. My brother, loyal but fair, called me at work to let me know. "She seems genuinely sorry for what it is worth," he said. "But it is your call. I can send her away." After a moment's consideration, I told him I would come home and talk to her. It was time to face this directly. When I arrived at my brother's house, Amanda was sitting on the front porch steps, looking nothing like the confident, empowered woman she had been portraying herself as in recent months. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face bare of makeup except for the concealer partially hiding her tattoo. She wore a plain t-shirt and jeans, a far cry from the designer clothes she had been buying. My heart twisted at the sight of her, a complex mix of lingering love, hurt anger, and a small unwelcome twinge of satisfaction at seeing the consequences of her choices catch up with her. But I kept my expression neutral as I sat down beside her, maintaining enough distance to make it clear we were not simply picking up where we left off. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," she began, her voice small. "I did not think you would." "I almost did not," I replied honestly. "What do you want, Amanda?" She took a deep, shaky breath. "I made a huge mistake, Homer. I got caught up in something that was not real. Sophia, Jackson, all of them, they were not really my friends. They disappeared the moment I needed actual help." I nodded but said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "Jackson was just using me," she admitted, staring at the ground. "He knew I had access to money, our money. Once that was gone, so was he. When I called him after you changed the locks, he said he was too busy to help. Then he blocked my number." While part of me felt vindicated hearing this confession, another part ached for her. Despite everything, I had never wanted to see her hurt. "And Sophia?" I asked. "Let me stay with her for exactly 8 days before telling me I needed to contribute to rent and utilities. When I could not, she suggested I call my parents for help." Amanda's voice cracked. "They are on a fixed income. They cannot support me. I should never have put them in that position." "Where are you staying now?" I asked, realizing I genuinely cared about her welfare despite everything. "With Tara, but just for another week. After that," she trailed off, the implication clear. She had nowhere to go. For several minutes we sat in silence. Finally, I spoke. "I cannot simply welcome you back and pretend nothing happened, Amanda. You betrayed my trust on multiple levels. You spent our money recklessly. You lied about where you were and who you were with. You may have been physically faithful, but there was definitely emotional infidelity with Jackson. And worst of all, you were planning to use me as a financial safety net while you found yourself without any regard for my feelings or needs." Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, not denying any of my points. "I know," she whispered. "I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I am asking for a chance to earn back your trust. I will do whatever it takes." I considered her words carefully. Despite the pain she had caused, 8 years of marriage was not something I could simply discard without making absolutely sure it could not be saved. But I also knew I could not go back to the way things were. And this is a big if we try to rebuild our relationship, there would need to be serious changes," I said firmly. "First, you would need to get a full-time job and contribute equally to our expenses. Second, we would need couples therapy with individual therapy for both of us as well. Third, complete transparency with phones, social media, everything. And fourth, those friends, especially Sophia and Jackson, would need to be completely out of your life. Amanda nodded eagerly at each condition. Yes, to all of that. I already applied for 3 full-time positions last week, and I have not spoken to any of them since Sophia kicked me out. What about the tattoo? I asked, my eyes flicking to her neck, where the words "Independent Girl" were still visible beneath the makeup. She touched it self-consciously. I have already looked into laser removal. It will take several sessions, but I want it gone. It reminds me of the worst mistake of my life. Over the next month, Amanda stayed with various friends while actively job hunting. She landed a position as an administrative assistant at a local business with decent pay and benefits. She attended therapy sessions twice weekly, both alone and with me. She gave me full access to her phone and social media accounts, though I rarely checked them, understanding that trust needed to be rebuilt on both sides. I remained at my brother's house during this time, using the space to process my feelings and determine if reconciliation was truly what I wanted. Some friends thought I was crazy for even considering taking her back. Others respected that I was taking the time to make a careful decision rather than acting on pure emotion. 2 months after our separation, after seeing consistent effort and change from Amanda, I agreed to a trial period of living together again. We moved into a smaller apartment that we could both afford, intentionally starting fresh in a new space rather than returning to the house that held so many complex memories. Our relationship today looks very different than it did before. We maintain separate bank accounts with a joint account only for shared expenses to which we contribute proportionally based on our income. We make major decisions together with both of us having equal input. Amanda has found fulfillment in her new career path, discovering that she enjoys the structure and teamwork of her office environment more than she expected. The laser treatments gradually faded her independent girl tattoo, though a faint shadow of it remains, a reminder of the crisis we weathered. Sometimes I still catch her looking at that spot in the mirror, a complex expression on her face. The healing process has not been easy or quick. There are still moments when the pain resurfaces, when trust feels fragile, when a chance reminder of that period brings back the hurt. But there are also new moments of joy, deeper conversations, and a more authentic connection than we had before. Through this experience, I learned that self-respect is non-negotiable in a relationship. By standing firm in my boundaries, I not only protected myself, but ultimately created the possibility for a healthier relationship. Amanda learned that true independence is not about rejection of responsibility or commitment, but about bringing your whole authentic self to your relationships and standing on your own 2 feet. We are still writing our story day by day, choice by choice. It is not perfect, but it is real. And sometimes, that is enough. If you have ever faced betrayal or had to rebuild trust in a relationship, let me know in the comments below. What helped you heal? Would you have made the same choices I did? Subscribe to hear more stories about the complex reality of modern relationships, and remember that self-respect is the foundation of any healthy connection. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it brings some perspective or comfort if you are going through something similar. Like and share if this resonated with you, and I will be back next week with another chapter from my life.